They say some places hold echoes of the past, whispers of stories that refuse to die. High on a windswept hill, crumbling against the sky, stands the monastery of St. Giles. To the casual eye, it's just another ruin, a skeleton of stone surrendering to time and ivy. But locals know better. They speak of it in hushed tones, telling tales of the bone Carver. For centuries, the monastery was a place of quiet contemplation. Then came Brother Alistair. He wasn't a man of prayer, but of art. His obsession, however, was macabre. He believed that the true essence of life, its most beautiful and tragic form, could only be found in what remains after death: the bones. He began to collect them, relics of his departed brothers, and carve them into breathtakingly intricate sculptures. Flowers with petals of ribcage, birds with wings of scapula, faces etched into femurs. The other monks were horrified. They saw it as sacrilege, a defilement of the sacred. They tried to stop him, to reason with him, but Alistair's obsession had consumed him. He saw only his art, his divine purpose. One stormy night they confronted him in his workshop. In the ensuing struggle, Alistair fell, his head striking the stone floor. He died surrounded by his ghastly masterpieces, his final, unfinished work still clutched in his hand. The monastery was eventually abandoned, left to the wind and the rain. But Alistair's spirit, they say, never left. It remained, tethered to his unholy art, forever yearning to complete his life's work. Years passed, and the monastery became a dare for thrill-seekers and urban explorers. That's how a young photographer named Leo found himself there one autumn evening. He'd heard the legends, of course, but dismissed them as folklore. He was after the perfect shot, the moon rising through the skeletal arches of the old chapel. He set up his tripod, the air growing colder as the sun dipped below the horizon. As twilight bled into night, Leo wandered deeper into the ruins. He stumbled upon a hidden cellar, the air thick with the smell of dust and something else, something ancient and dry. By the light of his phone, he saw them, the sculptures. They were arranged on stone shelves, a gallery of the dead. He was mesmerized, horrified, and utterly captivated. He began taking pictures, the flash illuminating the delicate, impossible details carved into the bone. He saw a rose, each petal a separate polished rib. He saw a weeping angel, its face carved from a human skull, tears of polished ivory trailing down its cheeks. He lost all track of time, absorbed in the grim beauty of the collection. Then the full moon rose, its silvery light pouring through a high, grimy window. It was at that moment Leo noticed it, a flicker of movement. He froze, lowering his camera. He stared at the bone angel. Had its head just tilted? He shook his head, blaming the shadows, the play of light. But then a bird, its body fashioned from a sternum, seemed to ruffle its bone-feathered wings. A cold dread, sharp and sudden, pierced through Leo's fascination. The legends weren't just stories. He heard a faint sound from the corner of the cellar, a soft, rhythmic scraping. Scrape, scrape, scrape. The sound of a tool on bone. Leo slowly turned his head, his heart hammering against his ribs. In the deepest shadows, a figure was taking shape, a translucent form draped in the tattered robes of a monk. It was Brother Alistair. His face was a mask of intense concentration, his spectral hands working on a new piece. He was carving a small, intricate flower into a piece of bone held in his ethereal grip. Leo wanted to run, to scream, but he was paralyzed by a fear so profound it felt like ice in his veins. The ghostly monk looked up, his eyes empty sockets that seemed to burn with a cold, blue light. He saw Leo. A faint, terrible smile touched his lips. Alistair wasn't angry. He looked inspired. His gaze drifted from Leo's face, down his body, lingering on his hands, his legs, his chest. He was appraising him, not as a person, but as raw material. The monk's gaze finally settled on his own unfinished work. He held it up to the moonlight. It was a human hand, carved from bone, but the fingers were incomplete. Alistair looked back at Leo, then at Leo's own hand, and the smile widened. He had found his final piece. Leo's paralysis broke. He scrambled backward, knocking over a shelf. Bone sculptures crashed to the floor, shattering into 1,000 pieces. The ghost of Alistair let out a silent scream of rage. The temperature in the cellar plummeted. A spectral wind tore through the room, extinguishing Leo's light. He was plunged into absolute darkness. The only sound, his own ragged breathing and the furious, echoing scrape of a carving tool growing closer and closer. He fumbled for the exit, his hands slapping against damp stone walls. The scraping was right behind him now, the chilling sound accompanied by a whisper that seemed to come from all around him, a voice dry as dust and old as the grave. Such perfect material, a masterpiece. You will be eternal. Leo burst out of the cellar and into the moonlit nave of the chapel. He didn't look back. He ran, tripping over fallen stones, ignoring the thorns that tore at his clothes and skin. He ran until the monastery was a dark silhouette against the moon, and he didn't stop until the first light of dawn touched the horizon. Leo never went back. He sold his camera and moved to a city where the tallest buildings blocked out the moon. But sometimes, on cold, clear nights, he feels it. A dull ache in his bones, a phantom chill. He'll look at his hands and swear he can see the faint, almost invisible lines of a carving, and he can hear the faint, distant sound of scraping, a ghostly artist forever waiting to finish his masterpiece. They say if you visit the ruins of St. Giles on a full moon, you can still see the bone art. But be warned, don't let the moonlight catch you. Brother Alistair is always searching for new material, and he has a very specific, very personal piece he's been dying to complete. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the shadows. Stay safe out there, and maybe avoid ruined monasteries for a little while. See you next time.